What if the greatest challenge to the institution of marriage isn't the rising divorce rates, or even the shifting cultural tides we've grown accustomed to? What if it's something far more fundamental, born from a new kind of woman who simply refuses to play by the old rules? For centuries, the age-old promise of "till death do us part" was the bedrock of our understanding of partnership. It was a covenant built for a world that, let's be honest, no longer exists. Today, we're witnessing a quiet revolution, spearheaded by a wave of fiercely independent women, the ones we've come to know as Sigma females. They're not just asking for a seat at the table, they're questioning the very foundation of the table itself, and in some cases, they're flipping it over entirely. In this deep dive, we're not just going to talk about this phenomenon, we're going to dissect it, breaking down exactly how these remarkable women are forcing society to reevaluate, rethink, and ultimately redefine what a lifelong partnership truly means. We'll explore their unique psychology, their unwavering self-sufficiency, and why their approach to life and love is fundamentally reshaping the future of marriage as we know it. Get ready, because the traditional script is being rewritten and the pen is firmly in the hand of the Sigma. Let's be crystal clear. Sigma females do not dream of being taken care of, and they sure as hell don't dream of taking care of someone else in that old-school dinner-on-the-table-at-6 subservient sense. That narrative, that archaic expectation, reads like a bad, dusty play to them, a script where one person is the designated lead and the other is relegated to a lifetime of supporting roles, waiting for their cues. They're not just editing that script, they're deleting it entirely. Historically, marriage was often a pragmatic arrangement, a societal contract where women exchanged domestic labor and child-rearing for financial security and social standing. The man was the head of the household, the provider, the decision-maker, while the woman was the nurturer, the homemaker, the emotional anchor. These roles, once seen as complementary, are now viewed by Sigmas as restrictive, unequal, and, frankly, insulting. They've watched generations of women contort themselves to fit molds that were never designed for their full potential, and they've decided unequivocally, no thank you. A Sigma woman isn't looking for a director or a co-star, she's looking for a co-author, someone who walks beside her, not behind, and certainly not ahead, dictating the plot. They envision a partnership where both individuals contribute equally to the narrative, sharing the pen, the creative vision, and the responsibility for the story they're building together. When a Sigma hears the phrase head of household, her mind immediately jumps to census paperwork and tax forms, not some antiquated notion of a throne or a hierarchical power structure. She sees a practical designation, not a declaration of dominance. For the Sigma, equality isn't just a buzzword, it's the non-negotiable bedrock of any relationship she considers. She's acutely aware of the subtle ways inequality can seep into a partnership, the unspoken expectations, the disproportionate emotional labor, the assumption that one person's career or needs take precedence. If a relationship begins to tilt, even slightly, into that caregiver and dependent territory, where one person feels like a burden or an unacknowledged servant, she's gone. She'll exit gracefully, often before the curtain even has a chance to fall, because compromising her fundamental sense of self and worth simply isn't an option. She's not interested in being half of a whole, if that whole means sacrificing her own identity and agency. This isn't about being difficult, it's about a profound respect for her own autonomy and an insistence on genuine mutual partnership. Now here's where Sigma females truly diverge from the mainstream. Most people, if we're honest, treat being alone like a problem that desperately needs solving. The idea of a quiet Friday night in or a solo weekend getaway often triggers a frantic search for company, a fear of missing out, or a quiet dread of introspection. Society, for a long time, has conditioned us to believe that loneliness is a pathology and that constant companionship is the ultimate antidote. But Sigmas? Oh, they treat solitude like a superpower they've already mastered, a finely honed skill. For them, a weekend with no texts, no social obligations, just the quiet hum of their own thoughts and pursuits sounds like absolute heaven, not a desperate cry for help. This profound comfort with their own company, this deep well of self-sufficiency, means they will never, ever marry to escape loneliness. The idea is almost anathema to them. Why would they seek external validation or company when their internal world is so rich and fulfilling? This isn't to say they don't value connection, but the bar for entry into their life, into their carefully curated sanctuary, is truly Himalayan. It's not just high, it requires a special kind of ascent, an understanding of the value of silence, and a respect for their inner world. Marriage, for so long, was presented as the acceptable antidote to spinsterhood, a societal label designed to shame women into traditional partnerships, implying that a woman without a husband was somehow incomplete or unfulfilled. It was the prescribed path, the default setting for adult women. For the Sigma, however, singledom is the default setting. It's their natural state of being, a space of freedom and self-discovery. Partnership then becomes the optional DLC, downloadable content, if you will. And just like any good DLC, it has to be exceptional. It has to add significant value, enhance the core experience, and bring something truly unique and compelling to the table. If the content isn't exceptional, if it doesn't enrich their already vibrant life, then why bother downloading it? Why clutter their system with anything less than extraordinary? This mindset fundamentally redefines the purpose of partnership. It moves marriage from a necessity, a social or economic imperative, to a deliberate, conscious choice. It means that when a Sigma does choose to partner, it's not out of fear, obligation, or a desire to fill a void, but from a place of abundance, strength, and genuine desire for an elevated experience. Their comfort with solitude is their shield against settling, their compass pointing only towards truly meaningful connections. If you're prone to small talk, be warned. It tends to die a swift, silent death in the presence of a Sigma female. She's not interested in discussing the weather or the latest reality TV show or surface-level pleasantries for long, not because she's rude, but because her mind operates on a different frequency. Her curiosity runs deep, her intellect craves substance, and her soul yearns for genuine connection that transcends the superficial. A Sigma wants to know why you flinch at the word forever. What hidden fears or past wounds does it trigger? She wants to know which childhood book gave you your first searing taste of injustice, the moment your young mind grappled with the unfairness of the world. She's curious about how you'd redesign society if you woke up in charge tomorrow morning, what fundamental changes you'd enact, what injustices you'd dismantle. These aren't just idle questions. They are invitations to a profound conversation, a journey into the landscape of your mind and soul. For the Sigma, a partner isn't just someone to share a bed with, or a bank account, or even a home. A partner is someone who can meet her in that cerebral arena, a sparring partner for ideas, a fellow explorer of the uncharted territories of thought. If a potential partner cannot engage with her on that level, if the conversation remains stuck in the shallow end of the pool, then the wedding aisle quickly becomes a conveyor belt to nowhere. The thought of a lifetime of intellectual stagnation is far more terrifying than the thought of being alone. Marriage, for generations, often sold the idea that you'd be each other's economic safety net. You'd pool resources, build a life, and provide mutual financial security. But here's the thing, Sigma females already have the receipts and the 401k. They're financially independent, often highly successful, and perfectly capable of building their own safety nets. The traditional economic incentives of marriage simply don't apply to them. They've already secured their own financial stability, often meticulously so. What they crave, then, is something far rarer and infinitely more valuable: mind-to-mind resonance. They seek a partner with whom they can engage in a vibrant intellectual duet at 2 a.m., debating profound philosophical questions like whether free will is truly an illusion, or the nature of consciousness, or the ethical implications of AI. They want a partner who challenges their perspectives, expands their thinking, and shares their insatiable hunger for knowledge and understanding. Without that kind of profound intellectual intimacy, that soulful spark of shared curiosity, the ring box stays firmly closed. It's not about what you have to offer financially, but what you can bring to the conversation. Forever. It's a big, heavy, almost Victorian word, isn't it? Laden with historical weight, societal expectations, and the implicit assumption of an unbreakable, unchangeable bond. It conjures images of dusty vows and a rigid, unyielding commitment. But for Sigma females, forever isn't a stone tablet. It's a living, breathing concept, one that needs to be approached with pragmatism and a healthy dose of reality. Sigmas treat commitment not as a static, immutable declaration, but more like a renewable contract. It's open to extension, certainly, but it's also subject to renegotiation as individuals grow and evolve. And crucially, it's terminable if growth stalls, if the partnership ceases to be a source of mutual enrichment and becomes a cage. This nuanced approach to commitment is often terrifying to traditionalists who have built the entire edifice of marriage on the premise that the fear of exit is what keeps people working at it, that the perceived permanence is the glue. The idea that a relationship could end if it stops serving both parties feels like a betrayal of the sacred. But Sigmas, true to form, flip that script entirely. For them, the freedom to leave is paradoxically the very reason they might choose to stay. Think about it. If you know you're staying because you want to, because the relationship continues to be the best option for your growth and happiness, rather than because you're legally or socially obligated, doesn't that make the choice infinitely more powerful and authentic? They don't need a legal cage, a societal obligation, or the weight of tradition to choose love daily. What they need, what they demand, is daily evidence that the love, the partnership, the shared journey is still the best option for both individuals involved. This isn't about being flighty or non-committal. It's about intentionality. It's about a deep understanding that people change, circumstances shift, and what works today might not work tomorrow. A Sigma believes that true commitment isn't about locking someone down, but about continuously choosing to show up, to invest, and to evolve together. If at any point that growth stalls, if the connection withers, or if the partnership begins to impede their individual journeys, they won't hesitate. They pack light, emotionally, and sometimes literally, and they leave early, choosing authenticity and personal integrity over a hollow semblance of permanence. Their forever is built on conscious, ongoing choice, not blind adherence to an outdated ideal. Let's talk about the practicalities, shall we? Sigma females are not just independent in spirit, they are fiercely, unapologetically self-sufficient in every tangible way. They've got the paycheck, often a substantial one, earned through their own ambition and talent. They've got the toolkit, metaphorically and sometimes literally, for fixing things around the house. They've probably got the handyman YouTube playlist bookmarked, ready to tackle any DIY project. And perhaps most importantly, they've cultivated a robust emotional vocabulary, often laminated and organized in their journals, allowing them to process their feelings, understand their needs, and navigate life's ups and downs without relying on someone else to be their emotional crutch. Historically, marriage doled out two colossal rewards that made it an almost irresistible proposition for many women: financial security and a built-in live-in therapist/cheerleader. For generations, women were often economically dependent on their husbands, and the emotional burden of supporting and validating one another often fell disproportionately on the wife. But here's the game changer. Sigmas arrive at the threshold of partnership already banked and already healed. They've built their own financial empires, no matter the size, and they've done the arduous, courageous work of healing their own emotional wounds and developing their own resilience. Strip away those traditional incentives, the need for financial provision, the search for an emotional caretaker, and what is marriage left to offer? It has to offer something far rarer, something profound, genuine synergy. Synergy, in this context, isn't just about two people coexisting. It's about two fully formed, self-sufficient individuals coming together to create something exponentially greater than the sum of their parts. It's a dynamic where their combined strengths amplify each other, where their individual pursuits are supported, and where their shared life feels like an exhilarating collaboration, not a compromise of self. Without that genuine synergy, that undeniable magnetic force that elevates both individuals, the institution of marriage looks, to a sigma, like an archaic merger. And why would a savvy, self-possessed individual enter a merger when she already holds 100% of her own shares? She has zero need for outside investors to prop up her life, her happiness, or her sense of worth. She's her own best investment. This isn't about selfishness, it's about a deep understanding of her own value and an unwillingness to dilute it for anything less than a truly extraordinary partnership. She's seeking an alliance of equals, where the benefits are mutual, profound, and truly transformative. All right, let's take a breath. Pause for a second. Which of these truths, which of these shifts, hit you the hardest? Which one resonated most deeply with your own experiences or observations? Drop the number, 1 through 5, in the comments below and tell me why. Your story, your perspective, might just be the thing that helps someone else out there feel a little less alone, a little more understood. And hey, if you're nodding along, if you want more of this straight talk on how fierce independence is fundamentally rewriting the rulebook for relationships, then don't forget to tap that subscribe button and join our growing pack. We're just getting started. It's an interesting dynamic to observe. Some men, when they first encounter a Sigma female, feel an undeniable pull, a spark of excitement. She's captivating, intelligent, self-assured. But then, almost as quickly, that spark can turn into the sensation of grabbing an electric fence. Exciting, then startling, then, more often than not, they vanish. Poof, gone. Why? Because centuries of deeply ingrained social coding have told them that masculinity means being the provider, the fixer, the decider. Their identity, their very sense of self-worth, has often been inextricably linked to these traditional roles. Now imagine a woman who shows up with her own ladder, her own toolkit, her own solutions. A woman who doesn't need fixing, doesn't need providing for in the traditional sense, and certainly doesn't need someone else to make her decisions. This isn't just a challenge to their expectations. It's a seismic shake-up to their very identity. It forces them to confront a fundamental question. If I'm not the provider, the fixer, the decider, then who am I in this relationship? What is my value? Rather than taking the often difficult, introspective path of recalibration, of redefining their own masculinity in the face of an equal partner, many men unfortunately choose the path of least resistance. They ghost. They retreat, often labeling the Sigma as too intense, too independent, or even intimidating. These labels are often less about the Sigma and more about the man's own discomfort with a woman who doesn't fit into his preconceived notions of femininity or partnership. It's easier to disappear than to do the hard work of self-reflection and adaptation. Meanwhile, the Sigma, ever pragmatic, simply shrugs. She doesn't internalize their retreat as a personal failing. She might update her internal boundary spreadsheet, noting another data point on what she won't tolerate, and then she keeps climbing. Her journey, her growth, her path isn't dependent on their presence or approval. Society, with its traditional lens, often calls this vanishing act a failure of the relationship, a missed connection. But for the Sigma, it's an efficient filtration process. It's the universe, or her own discerning intuition, doing the work of weeding out those who aren't aligned with her vision of an equitable, truly synergistic partnership. She understands that not everyone is ready for a relationship built on true equality, and she's perfectly fine letting those who aren't ready filter themselves out. Here's a topic that often makes traditional romantics clutch their pearls: prenuptial agreements. To many, discussing a prenup feels cold, unromantic, a harbinger of divorce before the wedding cake is even cut. It's seen as a direct assault on the beautiful sacred ideal of forever. But for Sigma females, prenups aren't unromantic. They are, quite simply, due diligence. They're a practical, intelligent approach to a serious legal and financial commitment. In fact, a Sigma might happily chat about asset division and financial expectations on date 3, not because she's cynical, but because understanding the exit strategy paradoxically makes staying a freer, more conscious choice. When all the potential complexities and challenges are laid bare, discussed openly and legally clarified, it removes a layer of unspoken anxiety and allows both partners to enter the relationship with their eyes wide open. It's about transparency and respect, not a lack of faith. Traditional narratives, steeped in the mystique of romance, often recoil from such pragmatic discussions. But romance, they cry, as if love and logic are mutually exclusive. Sigmas, however, reply with a calm, unwavering assertion, adulthood is a contract, let's footnote it properly. They understand that marriage, beneath all the beautiful ceremony and emotional connection, is also a legal and financial contract with significant implications. To ignore that reality is not romantic, it's naive and potentially irresponsible. This legal literacy, this insistence on clarity and fairness, often terrifies those who benefited, perhaps unknowingly, from the old asymmetry. For generations, women were often discouraged from talking about money, from understanding finances, from having an equal say in financial matters within a marriage. This created a power imbalance where one partner held more control and understanding. The Sigma's demand for transparency and equitable agreements challenges this historical imbalance head-on. Transparency in all its forms, emotional, intellectual, and financial, is the Sigma's native tongue. She speaks it fluently, and she expects her partner to learn it too. It's not about mistrust. It's about building a foundation of absolute clarity and mutual respect, ensuring that both parties are empowered and protected, regardless of what the future holds. Think about all the hats a traditional spouse was expected to wear: confidant, handyman, financial advisor, emotional support system, social planner, moving crew, therapist. It was, effectively, a Swiss Army knife of adulthood, a single person expected to fulfill a dizzying array of roles and needs. But Sigma females operate with a different model entirely. They've mastered the art of community outsourcing. Need help moving a couch? They're not waiting for their partner. They're posting in the group chat, mobilizing a network of friends. Need career advice or a fresh perspective on a professional challenge? They're tapping into their mentor circle on Friday morning or reaching out to a trusted colleague. Heartbreak strikes at midnight. They have 3 friends on rotation, each ready to listen, offer comfort, or provide a dose of tough love, depending on the hour and the need. This isn't about avoiding intimacy or being cold. It's about a networked support system. Sigmas understand that no single person can or should be expected to be everything to another individual. They meticulously curate a diverse community of friends, mentors, and specialists, each offering a unique form of support and wisdom. This distributed model of emotional, practical, and social support means they don't dump the entire backpack of life tasks and emotional burdens onto one spouse. When a Sigma has this robust external support system, marriage is no longer a utility belt, a collection of tools you need to survive adulthood. Instead, partnership becomes a choice, an intentional decision to invite someone special into an already rich and well-supported life. It frees the partner from the immense pressure of being the one for everything, allowing the relationship to focus on deeper connection, shared growth, and genuine companionship, rather than being weighed down by a laundry list of transactional needs. It transforms marriage from a functional necessity into an elevated, chosen experience, built on mutual desire rather than desperate need. For generations, the equation was simple, almost universally accepted. Marriage equals stable parenting. If you wanted children and you wanted them to grow up in a normal, stable environment, you got married. The institution of wedlock was seen as the foundational brick for a family unit. But that old equation? It crumbles entirely under the weight of Sigma pragmatism and their independent spirit. Sigma females approach the idea of parenthood with the same meticulous rigor they apply to every other major life decision. If they choose to have children, they'll research sperm donors with the analytical precision of a Harvard valedictorian poring over a complex thesis. Every detail, every implication, every potential outcome is considered. They are not impulsive when it comes to bringing a new life into the world. And when it comes to raising those children, they are equally innovative and unburdened by traditional expectations. They might co-parent amicably with a trusted friend, living in separate houses but presenting a united front for every PTA meeting, every school play, every scraped knee. They might choose to be single mothers by choice, leveraging their financial and emotional self-sufficiency to create a nurturing environment entirely on their own terms. The key insight for them is this: kids need harmony, stability, and love, not a marital label. They believe that a peaceful, well-adjusted child is the result of intentional, loving parenting, regardless of the parent's marital status or living arrangements. By decoupling parenthood from wedlock, Sigmas are yanking one more foundational brick out of the why marriage matters wall. They're demonstrating, powerfully and practically, that a family unit doesn't need to conform to a specific traditional structure to thrive. It doesn't need to be defined by a marriage certificate. This shift challenges a deeply ingrained societal belief and opens up new possibilities for what family can look like, emphasizing functionality, love, and stability over a prescribed legal status. It's a bold redefinition, and it has profound implications for how we understand family formation in the 21st century. Here's the thing about a quiet revolution. When enough individuals start opting out of the traditional game, whether it's the game of traditional marriage or societal expectations, the game itself is forced to rewrite its own rules. The Sigma female isn't just changing her own life. Her individual choices are creating a massive cultural course correction that impacts everyone. Consider men, for instance. For too long, many felt they could coast on the strength of being a provider, and that was enough to attract and keep a partner. But now, with a growing number of women who are already self-sufficient, men who genuinely want partnership are realizing that they need to develop a much deeper emotional literacy. They're learning that being a good listener, an empathetic partner, a true intellectual equal, and a supportive co-creator is far more valuable than simply bringing home a paycheck. The old playbook is obsolete, and those who refuse to adapt are finding themselves on the sidelines. The impact extends to industries too. Wedding planners, once solely focused on grand church ceremonies and traditional receptions, are now pivoting. They're becoming celebration coaches for commitment ceremonies that look nothing like a church aisle. Think intimate gatherings, personalized rituals, and celebrations that reflect the unique values of the couple, rather than adhering to rigid traditions. Diamond sales, once a cornerstone of the engagement industrial complex, might see a dip as couples prioritize experiences or alternative symbols of commitment. Meanwhile, solo travel bookings are surging, reflecting a broader cultural shift towards individual exploration and self-discovery, fueled in part by the Sigma ethos. The Sigma's individual choice to live authentically, to prioritize self-sufficiency and genuine connection over societal pressure, isn't just a personal preference. It's a powerful force reshaping our collective understanding of relationships, gender roles, and what it truly means to build a life. Her independence isn't just about her. It's a beacon, showing everyone else that there are other paths, other ways to define happiness and partnership, and that the most meaningful commitments are those chosen freely and intentionally, not out of obligation. It's a quiet but undeniable revolution, and its ripples are touching every corner of our society. So what does the future of partnership look like when Sigmas are leading the redesign? Picture this, if you will, a ceremony stripped bare of all historical baggage, overflowing instead with intentional meaning. Imagine two individuals standing on a cliffside overlooking a vast, endless ocean. There's no traditional aisle to walk down, symbolizing a journey from one family to another because they are already complete individuals. There's no giving away of the bride because she belongs to no one but herself. And certainly there's no archaic obey clause, for their union is one of equals. Instead, you might witness two short, powerful speeches, not recited vows, but heartfelt declarations of their present intentions and future aspirations together. Perhaps a ringless handshake, or an exchange of personalized tokens that symbolize their unique bond, rather than the traditional, often gendered, symbol of a diamond ring. The core of their agreement might be a contract, renewable every 5 years, a living document that acknowledges growth, change, and the ongoing choice to recommit. Guests, maybe a select few, those who truly understand and support their unconventional path, or perhaps just the two of them, witnessing each other, the efficient, the vastness of the ocean, the towering mountains, the silent wisdom of nature itself, rather than a figure representing traditional authority. And legality, well, that might be optional or handled separately as a pragmatic formality rather than the defining element of their union. They understand that a legal document doesn't create love. It merely codifies an agreement. This isn't just a whimsical vision, it's a profound metaphor. It's a ceremony that is stripped of the historical expectations, the gendered roles, and the societal pressures that have weighed down marriage for centuries. In its place is a ritual filled with intentional meaning, purpose, and authenticity. It's a celebration of two sovereign individuals, choosing, freely and consciously, to walk a path together for as long as it serves their mutual growth and happiness. This is where the institution of marriage is headed, when Sigma females, with their unwavering independence and profound self-awareness, lead the redesign. It's not about destroying marriage, it's about refining it, elevating it, and making it truly fit for the modern, evolving human spirit. If this deep dive has reframed your idea of partnership, if it's sparked a new understanding of what's possible, then please smash that like button. And more importantly, share this video with someone who keeps asking why you're still single or why your approach to relationships is so different. Let's get this conversation going. Comment below. Would you ever consider a renewable contract marriage, or is tradition still your jam? I want to hear your thoughts. And for more videos on how independence is rewriting every rule we thought was permanent, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.